everyone, welcome to our channel. Sorry about the late video today. We're in Texas, so we've been without power the last few days. So today we're going to do this Dollar Tree DIY. It's kind of a play on the farm animals using some animals that you see around Easter time. So let's go over our supplies first. We're going to use one of these bunny ornaments from the Dollar Tree. We'll also use one of their miniature foam eggs and this Happy Easter DIY wreath. We're going to use this little bunny foot that comes off one of their large signs and a small flower. We're also going to use some of the large craft sticks, a few dowel rods, and we will also be using this Imagine sign as our stand, and we'll need some Spanish moss as well. Then we're going to use these Dollar Tree carrots, and we are also going to use their craft foam. We'll need one of these cookie sheets, that's optional, and then we'll also use some different colors of paint, some different ribbon of your choice. We're also going to use some yarn for a bunny tail. We'll need a straight edge scissors. We'll need a pencil, some paint markers, Sharpies, hot glue gun, a hole punch, and some toothpicks. So let's get crafty. So the very first thing we're going to do is the bunny. So this bunny is an ornament, and you see it has that little hole on the top, so we don't want to see that, so we're going to fill that in. So I'm just going to take my hot glue gun and fill in the hole on the first side, and then I'm going to take a craft stick and just smooth it out, and it pops through the other side, smooth it out again, and then when it starts to cool down, just smooth it out with your finger to fill that hole in, and as you can see, it's all filled in now, and you won't be able to see it once it is painted. Now I'm going to take this Waverly chalk paint in light gray, and we're just going to paint the bunny. You can do 2 coats if you like. I didn't find it necessary. I kind of liked it in the really light gray color. But again, you can do 2 coats if you choose. And you can also paint the back if you want to, but also not necessary. I usually do paint the backs of my projects just because I like a little bit more of a finished look and not have to worry too much about where I place it. So here it is with the first coat. As you can see, that hole is gone. And now I just drew with a pencil on the bunny, and I am using that as my pattern to fill it in with some color. So using a white chalk marker or paint marker, I'm just going to fill in the center of the ears with white. Just kind of want to do right where you think the center of the bunny ears are. And then I kind of drew on some little furry legs here. And then I took a dark gray Sharpie and I just drew some little hairs around the leg in the back here. So just kind of, do little short strokes. You just want it to look like fur. And you want to go around the ears as well, where you just put the white in there. You can use pink if you like. You don't have to use the white for the center of the ears. And like I said, just use small little strokes to make it look like fur. And then we're going to draw that second ear so that one that's bent looks like it's in the back. And then just go around the outline of the whole entire bunny here. And as you can see, I just do really small, short little strokes, and you just go slow. You don't have to rush it, and really, you can't mess this up. It just looks like fur, and so it can go kind of any which way that you like. Just go around the whole perimeter of the bunny. And then once we have that done, we're going to draw around the bottom of the feet as well. And as you see, I drew some little marks to look like almost like the bunny toes, or like the little pads of the feet there in the front. And then for the eye, we're just going to draw an oval, and then we'll color in the bottom part with black and leave a little spot at the top for white. The nose is just an upside down heart, like half of a heart, and then draw some little whiskers on the side, some little eyelashes, and a little line under the eye to give it a cheek, and then put a little dot of white at the top of the eye there. And you can paint the nose in pink if you like. So then taking some yarn of your choice, I have this gray and white crafters yarn from the Dollar Tree. You just want to wrap it around 2 fingers about 50 or 60 times. And this is going to become our pom-pom for the tail. So once you have it wrapped around your fingers, like I said, about 60 times for the tail, then what you want to do is put it on top of a piece of an extra piece of string there, and then you're just going to tie it right in the center. And then you will want to double knot this and maybe wrap that string around a few more times. Just make sure you have it in the middle. So once you have it knotted off, then what you're going to do is cut through all of the loops here, and then that is the beginning of our bunny tail. Now, since the string is white and blue string combined, this yarn that I'm using, I'm going to take a comb to help separate those pieces so it's a little bit fluffier and I can separate the white and the gray string. So that's what I'm doing here. Once I have that tail all fluffed up, then you just want to take your scissors and give it a haircut. Basically, you want to keep cutting and working your way around, making all of the strings the same length until you have a nice little fluffy tail. And once that's done, you just attach it to the back of your rabbit with a little dot of hot glue. And then I thought he needed just a little bit more, so I took a piece of pink string here, or a piece of pink ribbon, a real fine piece, and just tied a little scarf like around his neck, and then made a very simple bow and attach it with some hot glue to the center. And that is our little bunny all finished, and we'll move on to the next animal for our display here. So we're going to do the chick next, and that's going to be one of these craft eggs. So these are the really small eggs. You get 12 in a pack. We'll need a razor blade, and what we're going to do is start making the wings on the sides of our chick. So we're just going to take our razor blade and cut pretty deep, and we're going to make a V shape on the side of our Easter egg here. And once you have that V shape cut, you just want to stick your razor blade underneath of it and just kind of push it up a little bit, but you want to be careful because you don't want to crack it off. That's going to help it stick out to look like a wing. And there it is from the front. And then we're going to do the same thing to the opposite side. So once we have that done, we're going to make a little hole in the bottom. This will end up being where we put our dowel rod in the bottom of it so that we can attach it to the top of our animal stack. Just want to cut like an X shape and then twist with the razor blade to make a hole. Then I'm going to use the Apple Barrel Ivory colored paint. It's a really light yellow color, and paint our chick. And make sure you get up underneath of those wings because you can see it a little bit. You want to make sure it's completely covered in paint. You can keep it on the razor blade to help make it a little bit easier to paint all the way around. So once that's done, I'm taking one of these little miniature roses from the Dollar Tree in yellow. If you can't find that, you can use pretty much anything you want. You can use felt, different things like that. I pulled off a few petals to make the wings, and then the top I pulled off, and it looks like feathers for the top of his head. So now I just put a little dot of hot glue. I let it dry just a little bit before I stick it on, since I am sticking that to foam. I don't want it to melt the foam, and we're just putting it on those little wings that we created earlier. And you'll just put one on each side of your chick. And that helped add some detail to the wings. Then for the top, to stick in those little feathers that we created, I actually took the razor blade and made a little tiny pinhole at the top. And then I was able to stick those feathers that I made out of the rose on top of the head pretty easy. So you just want to put a little bit of hot glue on that stem that was left behind, and then pop it right into that little hole that you created with the razor blade. Again, let the glue dry just a little bit before you put it in so it doesn't melt the foam. And here's what it looks like so far. The chick is one of the easiest animals to make here. So now we're going to draw the face on with a pencil. For his beak, I just used an orange Sharpie, and then for the eyes, I just used a black Sharpie, and I made tiny little ovals for the eyes. And that's our chick all done, and now we're going to work on the lamb. So we're going to use this wreath that says Happy Easter from Dollar Tree, and then we'll use this foot from that large Happy Easter sign. It has the bunny on it, some large craft sticks as well. So if you take your large craft sticks, you just want to cut those in half. These are going to be the legs for the lamb. Once you have 4 legs, then what you're going to do is just line them up and then draw a straight line across the bottom of them, and that will be our feet, or where the hooves are going to be. Now for that Easter bunny foot that we're using for the head, if you can't find that large sign to take that foot off, go ahead and just use some craft foam. It's basically just the shape of a jelly bean. So now we're going to use Waverly chalk paint in mineral, and we're going to paint all 4 legs. We'll do the sides and the back as well. And then we will also be making ears and a tail. But before that, what we want to do is take this paper off of that bunny foot, and I'm just using a razor blade underneath of the paper to help lift it up. Then we lay that on top of a piece of scrap paper and just use a pencil to draw some ears on the side of the head, and then draw basically a curved triangle for a tail. And those will just be the patterns that we use to trace onto a craft stick to make the ears and the tail. So I cut those out of the paper and then just trace it right on the craft stick and just use my scissors to cut those out. Now we're going to use the mineral paint, and we're going to paint the ears, the tail, the head, and then we're also going to paint the body. So once the body's done, I didn't want it to look so flat. I really wanted it to look like it had wool. So the way we accomplish this is going to be using the hot glue gun. But first we're going to paint the hooves of our forelegs here with the black chalk paint, and make sure you do the edges in the back as well. So then for the wool, what we're going to do with that hot glue gun is we're just going to draw little squiggly lines all around. Now you don't want it to be too thick, just a little bit of glue, and you can layer it in a bunch of different directions, and then just let that glue cool down. Once it cools down, we'll put another coat of the mineral paint on top. And then once we've covered it in the mineral paint, we'll let that dry. And then we are going to do some dry brushing over top of the glue that is dry, just to give it a little bit of like a 3D effect, and it looks a little bit more like the wool on the lamb. So that's our second coat. We'll just let that dry. Now we did the exact same thing to all four legs and then the top of the lamb's head. As you can see, I'm taking some darker paint and just dry brushing over top of that glue to give it a little bit of a 3D look and pop up so it looks more like wool. So now that we've got that done for the head, the legs, and the body, we're just going to put a face on our lamb. So I'm just going to use a little tiny bit of pink paint to create these cheeks. For the nose, it's just a V, and then you do a curved line to make the mouth. And then for the eyes, we're just going to do these two little curved lines underneath of the eyes to look like the cheeks. And then we'll do just a half oval to create the eyes with some eyelashes. And then at the top, using your Sharpie marker, you just want to draw a large circle, and that will be where the white goes for the eyes to help give it a little bit of a highlight. And just fill that in with your Sharpie marker. You can use paint as well, or a paint marker. And I am going to use a paint marker for the little whites of the eyes. Then I wanted a little bit more detail to the nose, so I ended up using that same marker and just draw just a little bit of a curved line at the top. And while it's still wet, I just dabbed it with my finger to help smear it a little bit. Now we're going to glue our legs together. So because they're, we're doing all four legs and we want to look like it's standing, we're going to glue them at an angle so that you look like you have the legs in the front and then in the back. So that's why we're gluing those on the way that we did. And then once the legs are glued together, you just want to go ahead and glue your ears on to the back of the head. And as you can see, I added a little bit of a shadow at the bottom of the ears just to make sure that it looked like it wasn't just a flat ear there. And flip the whole thing over and you'll glue your legs on to the bottom. And then you'll also glue your tail. I accidentally glued my tail to the wrong side, so I had to take it off and glue it on the other side because I wanted it on the side I glued it on, but when you flip it over, it obviously was in the wrong spot. So then we're going to take some hot glue and put that on the back of the head and just position that where you would like it to be. And then I did make this tiny little bow out of some pink and gray ribbon and glued that onto the top of his head. And so here are 3 animals all complete. And now we're going to start working on the base and putting the whole thing together. So I have this sign from the Dollar Tree. It's like a canvas, and all we're going to do is cover it with some black paint to hide that word. And then once that's dry, flip it over and paint around the edge here to cover the staples and that little bit of white. Then we're going to take 2 small dowel rods and we're going to stand it up and mark it with a pencil. This is so we know where to glue it onto our lamb so that we know how deep it will go all the way into the foam, so we have a good base there. So we just take some hot glue and then attach 1 dowel rod to each of the legs of the lamb. And then that will be how we attach it to the craft foam once we put that into the base. And you can paint the dowel rods when you are done to match the back. So once that's done, we'll just set that aside for now. And then we will glue our bunny at the top there. I didn't put a dowel rod. I just glued him right to the lamb. And we will need the dowel rod to attach the chick. So you put a little bit of hot glue at the top of your dowel rod, and then that hole we made earlier, that's how you're going to attach it. And that glue is just to help hold it on. And then once you figure out where you want it to be positioned at, just go ahead and add some hot glue to that and then attach it to your bunny. I wanted him sitting right on top of that ear, so that is where I put mine. And there they are all put together, and we can continue working on the base now that it's dry. So I just cut this floral foam to fit, and then taking some low temp hot glue, I'm going to fill in all the spaces here and then put some hot glue on my dowel rods and pop that right into that craft foam. You do want to let this cool down a little bit before you put it in so you don't melt the foam if you don't have a low temperature hot glue gun. And that glue just helps to hold it in place long term. So this is what it looks like so far. I pretty much centered it right in the middle. And then taking some hot glue, we're going to start putting our Spanish moss all around the base and like up around the feet and in between the set of legs that we created on our lamb to cover all of that floral foam. And if you have a bunch sticking off the side, you can just trim it up with your scissors. Then I found a long time ago, I'm a hairdresser, so I love to use hairspray for like sealing glitter, and this moss, it really helps keep it from shedding, but you do want to use your extra strength. And now for the carrots, because we're going to cut them, I put 1 line of hot glue down the string. So when I cut it, all of the ribbon doesn't start popping off right away. So as you can see, the little edges here do start to unravel, but because we had that hot glue down the side of it, it didn't completely come off. And then those little pieces that popped off, we'll just add a little bit of hot glue there and seal it back up. Then take a toothpick, pop it right into the center of your carrot, and then you can add a little bit of hot glue to your toothpick here and then stick it right into your craft foam. So I cut these at different lengths. I wanted some to be a little bit taller. It just looks like you have carrots growing up out of that Spanish moss there. I really like the way that looks. So I did quite a few of those in different sizes. Then I'm going to take, this is optional, I'm going to take one of these Dollar Tree cookie sheets. They're just aluminum foil. I'm going to cut 4 rectangular pieces and fold them in half, and then this will just add some metal accents to our base right on the corners. You're just going to attach those using hot glue. Now, these are cookie sheets, so they really hold the heat. So when you put that hot glue on, they get really hot really quickly. So be careful, maybe use those hot glue protectors that you can buy at the Dollar Tree for your hands, or you can use a craft stick or a pencil or something to help push those down into place while they're drying or while you're attaching them, just because they do get pretty hot. So we just attach that to all 4 corners to add some metal accents. Then taking a hole punch, we're going to punch a few holes in the cookie sheet, and these will look like little nails that we've put in to hold our sign on. So we're just going to attach those little dots with some hot glue. And we'll put 1 on each side. And then I just used a Sharpie and I wrote Farm Fresh and drew a little flower right in the center. But I did stencil it on with a pencil first so I could position it and figure out the spacing before I drew it on and committed to it with the Sharpie. Then we're just going to attach that right to the center of the base with some hot glue. And as you can see, all those carrots are different sizes, And then this is our little sign for the front. So this was just a little play on, like, you ever see the stack with the rooster, like a pig and a cow? I always think those are so cute. And I thought this would be really cute to do with some Easter animals. I love so much how these turned out. It's time consuming just because you have to create each animal individually, but it was actually a lot of fun to do and I really enjoyed it. And I love so much how it turned out. I hope you guys do too. Thank you so much for being patient. I know this video is really late today. We really got hit with a bad snowstorm in Texas. I'm from Ohio, so snow really doesn't bother me, but we had no power for a few days and it's been rough. So we're hanging in there. We got our power back. So that's why this video is finally making it out today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and I'll see you guys next week.